Hi, everybody, and welcome to our Electric Vehicles 101 webinar. I'm just going to wait another minute for some people to trickle in. We had a lot of attendees sign up, but I only see a good handful so far, so just give us a few more minutes and we'll start. Okay, we will get going then. So, hi everybody, and welcome to our Electric Vehicles 101 presentation. I'm glad you could make it. Just some housekeeping things before we really get going. One is that you'll notice that you're all muted. That is on purpose. So if you do have a question, I would ask that you put it in the questions box, and I have built in some time throughout the presentation for breaks to answer all those questions. If I don't get to your question, or if you feel like it wasn't answered to your satisfaction, you can definitely email me after the fact, and I can follow up with you then. Another thing is that this presentation will be recorded. So within the next few days after this presentation is given, I'll be sending it all out to everybody so you can have it on hand whenever you'd like. So with that being said, we'll get started. So my name is Devin DeLibero, and I am the program coordinator for the Drive Green program at Green Energy Consumers Alliance. A little bit more about the organization before we dive into Drive Green and electric vehicles is so our mission is to harness the power of energy consumers to speed the transition to a low carbon future. And we do that in a few different ways. One of them being our policy and advocacy work, which you may or may not have heard of or been involved in. But then we also do it through our program work. So you might be involved in Shave the Peak or Green Powered, but primarily we're here to talk today about Drive Green. If you're interested in any of those other programs, again, feel free to reach out or peruse the website and let me know. The Drive Green started in 2016 with two purposes really in mind. The first is to be an educational resource for anybody who's interested in electric vehicles. So we cover topics such as winter driving and what that does to the range of your vehicle. And we also talk about different incentives for folks who are buying the cars, whether they be federal incentives that are available and state incentives or what have you. Pretty much anything you could think to ask about electric vehicles, we have on our website, or at least I hope we have on our website. And then once you feel like you have completely educated yourself and you're ready to buy a vehicle, you can use the website for the other part that we created, which is a platform through which people can sign up to test drive and eventually purchase and lease a vehicle through our network of dealers that we've cultivated over the years. So these dealers, what they do is they offer fixed monthly discounts for folks who sign up to test drive through our website. So if you are interested in an electric vehicle and you decide after this presentation you really want to take the plunge and get one, please sign up on our website and try to get a discount. If you don't sign up, we can't help you get a discount. So I would just make sure you do that. Okay, so why electric vehicles? Why did we choose electric vehicles over everything when we were trying to speed the transition to a low carbon future? Well, electric vehicles are one of the highest emitters of CO2. I'm sorry, not electric vehicles. Transportation is one of the highest emitters of CO2. And so you can see here with this little graph of just your typical gas-powered passenger car emits 381 grams of CO2 emissions per mile in New England. So that's pretty substantial. for a plug-in hybrid, which is a car that has a plug but also has gas backup, and emits 176 grams of CO2 emissions per mile. With a battery electric vehicle that's just pure electric, just a plug, all I know backup, that only does 96 grams of CO2 emission. And here's our shameless plug for our green powered program. So basically we're saying if you opt into our green powered program and you green out your electricity with us, you're essentially emitting no emissions if you have a battery electric vehicle and you're in this program. But just while we're here and while we're thinking of CO2 emissions, I have a couple other fast facts for you. So according to the EPA, a typical passenger vehicle emits 4.6 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year, which is just insane. CO2 emissions from 1 gallon of gasoline are 8,887 grams. So you can see why we're really concerned about this and why we are opting for electric vehicles in our push for a low carbon future. And all of those emissions relate to public health crises that we've had. So with an electric vehicle or even a plug-in hybrid, there are no or a lot less tailpipe emissions, which helps with a lot of things like asthma and other, lung diseases that you find. Electric vehicles are cleaner, even if you take electricity generation into account. And so what I mean by that is, obviously there's no or less tailpipe emissions, but the grid is getting cleaner and cleaner every year, and they're introducing more renewable energy because of certain standards. So in Rhode Island, there is a Rhode Island Renewable Energy Standard, and that has a target for utilities to incorporate 38.5% of renewables into their mix by 2035. And Massachusetts, they have a similar goal with their Renewable Energy Standard, and their mix increases by 2% every year for more green renewables. So you can see it's still better to drive electric. Again, we talked about climate change itself being a public health threat with all the emissions into the air and ingesting that into your lungs, and it's really not great. So a study was done by the American Lung Association, which said that electrification could save New England $2.2 billion and avoided health costs by 2050. And in that same study, it was done of 10 states, and for those 10 states alone, it costs $37 billion a year in health costs. So, as you can imagine, it's extremely important to us, especially when it comes to things like equity. Then there's also efficiency. So if you look at this little graph on the right-hand side, you'll notice that we compare your typical gas-powered cars to your traditional hybrid cars, your plug-in hybrid cars, and your battery electric cars. You'll see that the Toyota Corolla only gets a MPG of 31, which is really sad when you compare it all the way to the Tesla Model 3, which gets 130 MPGe. But what we're saying here is that electric cars are more efficient, and that's better for your wallet because you'll spend less money on fueling or electrifying your car. So gas-powered cars only convert about 17 to 21% of the available energy in gasoline into kinetic energy, which is wastes a whole lot of resources, whereas electric vehicles efficiency is closer to 60 to 77%. Then electric vehicles also have lower fuel costs. So you'll see here on the right-hand side, I took a little snippet today from the Department of Energy for their e-gallon. So in Massachusetts, gas prices are going up like they are around the country. Now they're at $2.36 a gallon, whereas the electric e-gallon is $2.01. This is a pretty big jump from the e-gallon to the regular gasoline gallon. And you can see the savings here quite clearly. The reason for this being is that electric prices are a little more stable than gasoline prices, so they tend to fluctuate a lot more for gas than they do for electricity. So that's just something else to consider. And then so we have our own little math that we encourage you to look at our website if you want more information about the math itself, but just as a glimpse, the average New England driver will save 3.6 cents per mile which is equivalent to $428 a year or $36 a month. So New England right now has high electricity rates and low gas prices, but drivers still see these savings. But I guess if you were in somewhere else in the country, you might see them even more. So this slide has something that we were pretty excited about, the Consumer Reports that came out about the electric vehicle ownership costs, and it just kind of promotes or really just supports what we've been saying all along, which is that EVs cut maintenance and repair costs by a whole lot, which means they're cheaper to own over time. And so what I mean by that is there are far fewer moving parts in an EV compared to an internal combustion engine. So there's a lot less things to fix or to break. The battery, the motor, and electronics require very little maintenance to none at all. I'm sure some of you will have questions about batteries. What I can say is that most manufacturers have, I think it's a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty on these batteries, so I don't think there's anything to worry about there. Yeah, it is unlikely that you'll have to replace the battery. And then there's regenerative braking, which protects the brakes, so you won't even have to get your brakes checked normally. And if you're wondering what regenerative braking is, it's basically part of this thing called one-pedal driving. And one-pedal driving is when you take your foot off the accelerator and it slows the car down like substantially. It does it more than if you were just to take your foot off the gas in a gas-powered car. And so what that does is takes that energy and puts it back into the battery, and it doesn't actually use your brakes. So it keeps your brakes from needing more repairs. Okay, so this is just a little cost comparison over time. What I would like to say when you're looking at this is the Drive Green discount that you see for the Nissan Leaf Plus and the Chevy Bolt, that's not actually what it is for this month, but it is a previous month's discount. So right now, the Nissan Leaf Plus, I think, is about $9,000 off for the Drive Green discount. And the Chevrolet Bolt is about, the highest one is $17,500. So it's quite significant. For simplicity's sake, we'll just go with the initial math here. So you'll see with the Nissan Leaf Plus, it is still available for the federal tax credit. The Chevy Bolt is not. I'll go into what that is later and what that means. So it gets that and the Drive Green discount, which brings the price down to $22,000. The Chevy Bolt has the $14,000 discount, which brings the price down to about $21,000. The Toyota RAV4 is about $24,000. So you'll see as of right now, even then, at the initial point of buying the car, it's cheaper to buy an EV. They're more efficient, like we talked about before with MPGs. They cost less over for fuel. The maintenance repair costs are even less. You can see here a nice comparison. Operating costs after 5 years are less, and then the total cost of ownership after 5 years. You can see it still works out better to buy an EV. So you can take a minute to sit with these after when I send you the presentation, but it is helpful to look at these numbers. Okay, so this is some of the stuff that we pulled from Consumer Reports. It just kind of goes to support a lot of the stuff we've said in the past. So EVs are cost effective when compared to the best-selling, top-rated, and most efficient cars in their class. We talked about that already. These numbers on the left-hand side, you'll see includes financing, depreciation, resale prices. Yeah, and so this study assessed vehicles on a 5-year and lifetime basis. So you'll see it's still better to buy an EV. And I do encourage you to look at this report if you're interested. It should be linked in this presentation, which again, I will send you later. Plus, we like EVs because they're fun to drive. I encourage you all to take one for a spin if you can. They're really fun and fast and zippy, and really any other fun adjective when it comes to driving. But with that, I'm going to take our first break. I know I threw a lot of information at you, so I'm going to check out and see what the questions are. I don't think there's any questions so far. I'll just give you 2 seconds to see if anyone wants to type anything in. Oops. Okay, we're saving our questions for later. That's fine. Okay, we're moving on to things you should know. So we like to say that range anxiety is a thing of the past. If you don't know what range anxiety is, basically it means that if you're out and about and you're afraid that your electric vehicle is going to run out of charge before you do what you need to get done. So why do we say it's a thing of the past? Well, because we like to think that charging infrastructure and all the different apps to find charging stations have improved greatly and are enough that people can be confident in driving an electric vehicle. Then there's also all the different plug-in hybrid models to consider if you're not ready to go all electric and you want to get what I think of as a gateway car. So you can get something like the Chrysler Pacifica hybrid, which gets about 33 miles per charge, and then the rest is a gas backup. Or if you're ready to take the leap, what you could do is you get a pure electric vehicle, and the ranges for these electric vehicles have been going up and up every year. And that's part of the reason why we think range anxiety is a thing of the past, because vehicles like the Chevy Bolt, for example, with the B as in boy, get about 259 miles per charge. And if you keep going on this graph, you'll see that Teslas get around 300. So it's really something that we don't think you need to worry about anymore. Also, charging isn't hard, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions about charging, and I cannot wait to answer them. But let's just do a little review. So there are 3 basic levels of charging. The first one is level 1, which is 110 volts, and that gets you 2 to 6 miles of range per hour, approximately. So what is a level 1 charger? Basically, it's your typical wall outlets, like what you charge your phone with. And you can just slowly do that with your car. We call it a trickle charge because it takes a long time. Then there's a level 2 option, which is 220 volts, and that gets you approximately 11 to 25 miles of range per hour. So a level 2 is something that you can have installed at your home with the help of an electrician. And with the unit and the electrician costs, we roughly estimate that it'll cost about $1,000 to do. But you also you'll see these in a public place. Level 2 chargers are very popular in public places, and that's what you'll usually use when you're doing public charging. Then there is DC fast charging, which can do things like get you 90 miles of charge in 30 minutes. And this example is, I think, from a Bolt. And it's really important to have if you know you're going to be out and about a lot and you're going to rely on that. It's also not great to rely on fast charging because it does do damage to the battery if you use fast charging all the time. Just think about any other kind of battery experiences you've had. One thing of note that I do want to impress upon you is that if you're thinking about getting an electric vehicle and you want to have DC fast charging capability, know that not all cars come like standardly equipped with this capability. So for the Bolt, for example, you have to make sure it has that with the car because you can't get it like installed at a later time. It has to come made into the car. You should also note that most, if not all, plug-in hybrids don't have fast charging capability. So just something to keep in mind. And you'll notice, so we're going to move on to plug types, but you'll notice that I have like a little diagram of what they look like on the right-hand side. I have some images. So for level 1 and level 2 charging, you can use the J1772 port. For DC fast charging, it gets a little bit complicated. So there's the J1772 combo, which you'll see in the second figure, and then the CHAdeMO, which is the third. The J1772 combo is mostly found in American and European style cars, and that's because that's their way of charging. And then the CHAdeMO is typically found in like different types of Asian brand cars, but I know that most Asian brand cars are switching that because they want to be competitive in the American and European markets. So just something to know. I'm not going to really go over Tesla that much because they have their own proprietary report that is very singular to them. So if you want to know specifically about Tesla, I can link you up with one of our Tesla ambassadors, or you can just check out their website. Okay, and so this slide is to let you know that we do have an electric vehicle charging at home guide. You can find that on our charging page on the Drivegreen website. So if you're curious about like the ins and outs of what that means, you can read the full guide there. And kind of just, excuse me, it details a little bit more about what I've talked about already. And then you can charge on the go. So there are apps out there like PlugShare and ChargePoint, which I would recommend that you use when you are charging your vehicle on the go. And I know that some manufacturers have their own websites like this and their own apps like this, but I really would recommend ChargePoint and PlugShare. But you'll see through these maps that charging is really prevalent in Eastern Massachusetts. It's not as much in Western Massachusetts, but I think it's enough to get by. And there's more and more coming all the time. Then another snapshot of the southeastern Massachusetts coast and the Cape, and then Rhode Island. Specifically in Rhode Island, you'll see that it's concentrated more on the eastern part of Rhode Island, and like the western part of Rhode Island is almost like a dead zone. But again, we're working on it, and utilities are also working on it, and they have different programs to get charging infrastructure installed. So to be continued. Okay, this I think is probably another area where you'll have a lot of questions, so bear with me. So the federal tax credit. So what is it? So that means you can get up to $7,500 off an electric vehicle, but it depends on the size of the battery and their personal tax liability. So for example, just to show you a difference, so the Toyota Prius Prime has about 26 miles per charge, and so it has a relatively small battery, and that's only eligible for about $4,500 in federal tax credit, whereas the Hyundai Kona has upwards of like 250 miles per charge, and that's eligible for the full $7,500 rebate. I'm sorry, tax credit. So another thing to know about the federal tax credit, and you might be wondering why wasn't that federal tax credit on the Chevy pricing that you saw earlier, and why doesn't Tesla have it? And it's because the federal tax credit is limited, has limited the manufacturers to 200,000 units. Chevy and Tesla reached those a while ago, and the federal tax credit was phased out for them, so no more. Then there are state incentives to consider. Just quickly, Rhode Island doesn't have one. We did have one, and then it went away, and there just never seems to be funding for it. So stay tuned, maybe once again, but so far there's nothing coming. In Massachusetts, there is the State More EV rebate, which will give you a $2,500 rebate for a battery electric vehicle and a $1,500 rebate for a plug-in hybrid. The only thing to know with those things is, with that money, is that the plug-in hybrid has to have 25 miles or more of range, or else it's not eligible for the rebate. And then the vehicle purchased must be below $50,000. The reason for that is they want, if you're going to buy an $80,000 vehicle, you don't really need a $1,500 or $2,500 rebate. So they're trying to make sure that they give it to folks who really need it. And then, of course, there are Drivegreen discounts. And let's see if I can show you how to get to the website. So how to get an EV. Okay, really quickly, I'm going to ask my coworker who's on the line. Adriana, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, perfect. Okay. All right, everybody. So basically, I just kind of clicked a link to the website, but this is our Drive Green website. I've linked it to the Explore the Colors and Discount page. So once you get here, you're going to hit this Ready button. We have new vehicles on offer and pre-owned vehicles on offer. The only difference is that the pre-owned vehicles don't have a discount. So just know that going in. And the pre-owned vehicles are also not eligible for any of the state rebates or federal tax incentives. So know that. So we're just going to go new for now. Okay. So you'll see on the left-hand side, you can fill by pretty much anything you can think of. So if you want a battery electric vehicle, plug-in hybrid, or if you want something with 200 miles of range or more, pretty much the sky's the limit. We also do by style, so on and so forth. You'll also notice that every vehicle has its own card, so to speak. So we do some like fast facts on these cards, so you can kind of just do a quick glimpse to compare. So we mentioned like the battery, the type of card is, the range, the style. We mentioned what kind of drive it is. We also mentioned like base MSRP, federal tax credit, so on and so forth. So once you get here, you decide whichever cars you're most interested in. You hit select and select, and you hit next page. From here, you'll pick your different trim level. Depends what you want. And then you'll hit see your deals. So, like I said earlier, the Bolt discount is really substantial this month. And I know it's going to go down next month because of certain pricing with the OEM. But basically, if you want to bulk, get it now. But you can see here, we have the price before discount listed, the Drive Green discount, the state rebate. We mentioned whether or not there's a federal tax credit, and we have our final price for you. We also have different leasing options for, if customers want that and if they're available. And we have all this different information down here that we encourage you to read before you talk to the dealer. And you can compare and contrast the different deals. I encourage you to sign up for multiple dealers, even if you feel like you're going with the one with the best deal. Just try another one just in case to compare your experience. And you'll also see for the Leaf Plus, there's a substantial discount. Okay, so once you are ready and you've really researched this and you've looked over all the different deals and you've decided that you want to go with a couple of different dealers, you would select them here, complete the sign up, fill out your information here, click all the prompts, and what will happen is all of your information will be sent to the dealer and their information will be sent to you in an email. So we open up the line of communication, and this makes you eligible for that discount. I can't stress this enough. If you want the discount, you have to sign up on the website. But yeah, so the dealer should contact you within 48 hours, and if they don't, feel free to reach out to them, but we try to be on them to contact you within 48 hours. And that's pretty much how the process works. So it's really, we try to make it as simple as possible. And I'm going to break here to see if there's any questions. Let me just pull it out, hold on. Okay, you guys are busy. Okay, so the question was, are you planning on expanding your discounts with other manufacturers and across more models? So just to make this clear, they're not really our discounts, they're the discounts the dealers are offering through our website, so we have no control over what the discounts actually are. We are constantly recruiting new dealers, and we would welcome any new dealer we could find on our website. It's just a matter of actually getting the dealers on the phone and to listen to us, because dealers can be hard to pin down. So the answer to your question is yes, and we're doing our best to get as many different manufacturers represented and models represented on our website. Things you should know about. Okay, so someone asked what the car is on the things you should know about slide. Hold on. Let me just go back. Oops. Sorry, just give me 1 minute. I just need to double check. I think I passed it. Oh, okay. So the thing you should know about slide, that is a Prius Prime. Hold on 1 second. Okay. I have a question that says, how many fast charging stations are available now, and is there a plan to increase the number? So I don't have a number for you as far as how many are available now. I would encourage you to check out PlugShare or ChargePoint to see how many are available in your area. But I do know that there are programs in place that National Grid is running in both Massachusetts and Rhode Island that is working towards installing more fast chargers and level 2 chargers. So there are more plans in the works, at least immediately in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, and I think nationwide. So I hope that answered your question. Then I have another question is, why does Tesla have proprietary support? Will that change? So Tesla is kind of its own beast, and they have their own proprietary ports because they are Tesla, and they have their own network of charging stations, which is pretty expansive and really great from what I've heard. And so I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. If anything, I think Elon Musk will demand that everybody else change it to his network. But if you do drive a Tesla, they do offer converters. So if you can't get to a Tesla charging station, you can charge at a regular charging station. Okay. Okay, so I have a question that says, the recharging time is currently a real limitation. I can refuel my hybrid Camry and get 500 miles of range restored in 5 minutes. How can an electric car match that, especially for long trips? I completely understand. Right now it can't. It's getting better and better over time, but right now it's not going to be down to 5 minutes. What we say to folks in those situations, and what I've heard from other EV drivers who have done long trips, is that they just plan ahead. There's something called a better route planner that I've heard mentioned from multiple different EV owners that they use on long trips like that. So they'll just plan their route and plan to make stops that are long enough for their car to charge on a fast charger usually. So whether that's just like to sit and grab a cup of coffee for a little bit, or to do like an errand on that trip, or just, I don't know, to get out and stretch your legs. Unfortunately, that's not the best answer, I know, but it's what we have at the moment, and it's better than hours and hours. So usually I would say about a half hour to an hour to really recharge on a fast charger. But really it's only a half hour, but if you want to get to 100, it slows down after 80%. Do you anticipate including VWs on your site? Yes, at one time we did have a VW on our site. We had the e-Golf, but they stopped making them. And right now, VW is pushing the ID.4 in the United States, and we're really excited about that. But it's kind of weird. They're in a weird transition where they're only doing orders online, so the dealers don't really have anything to offer as far as participating right now, because it's all out of their hands anyway. So we're trying to wait to see where the market goes once like they have enough in stock, once they're actually getting these cars in stock. And then we plan on recruiting VW dealers just with, which is the same thing with Ford. So right now the Mach-E is a really like hot car and everybody wants it, but it's only, the sales are only being done online, and there's really not much the dealers actually have in stock, and they don't have much control over it. So we're waiting for these cars to actually be in the lots before we can fully recruit these dealers and have them represented on our website. So someone asked why the Tesla Y isn't on our website, and if there's a reason. I thought we had a card for the Tesla Y. I have to take a look at that afterwards. The reason why Tesla in general isn't on our program is because they don't want to be. We've asked a few different times, and they don't need us, and they don't have use for our level of marketing. They have back orders as it is, so, and they're doing things completely differently than the regular dealer model. We don't have anything against Tesla. We just don't work with them a lot because, again, they don't really need us. Okay, so someone says, the map of charging stations were great. Where can I find maps like that for other states? Examples are Connecticut and New Hampshire. So to that person and to everybody else, I would say I pulled those maps from PlugShare. I took screenshots. So I would recommend, again, checking out PlugShare or ChargePoint, but most EV drivers prefer PlugShare. And that'll tell you all sorts of different things you want to know about the charging stations in your area, whether they're in good use, whether they're not so great, whether there's good coffee around that charging station or whether it's free or whether it's not free. So I would encourage you to check out PlugShare. Okay. One question is, are the deals typically monthly? Do we keep checking, or are there times of the year that are better than others to purchase? So honestly, now is a really good time to purchase because a lot of dealers are trying to get rid of their 2020 stock. So I know right now, for example, I think I mentioned this before, is that the Chevy Bolt, they're crazy deals right now on the Chevrolet Bolt, as much as $17,500. So if you want a Bolt and you know you're going to get it eventually, I would recommend doing it now, because again, they're trying to get rid of their stock. Usually right now, and I think December are really big months for car sales. So keep that in mind. The deals do change monthly. They're on a fixed monthly basis. So every month I harass the dealers to update their pricing. And once the pricing expires, it stays on the website for a little bit until I hide it. But it's basically, it's not on offer unless it's within that date. So make sure if you want that pricing, you get it within that date. And the reason for that is because the manufacturers offer different packages every month, so the dealers can't have consistent prices over multiple months. Let's see. I have a question that says, EVs reduce maintenance costs. Are the savings significantly less for plug-in hybrids with gas-powered engine than with battery electric? Yes, I would say the battery electric has the least cost associated with it when it comes to maintenance, because it has far fewer moving parts, because the plug-in hybrid still does rely on that gas model, so it does still have the same part, some of the same parts that a gas-powered car would have. So if maintenance costs is something that you're debating about as far as like getting this type of vehicle, then I would go with a battery electric vehicle. One question is, can you get tax credits if you lease? So yes and no is the answer to that question. So it depends on the dealer. Some of the dealers will, in a way to get you to lease their car, will roll that price in, roll that incentive into the price. Some dealers won't. It's entirely up to the dealer. So not a great answer, but yes and no. I have a question of, do you work with solar installers along with car dealers to charge the car from solar? No, what we do is the only solar program we have is something called Energy Sage. It's a partnership we have with Energy Sage, rather, to help people get quotes for solar installations. As far as charging your car with renewables, we have our Green Power program, which we buy renewable energy certificates from projects all around New England, but primarily in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, to offset, traditional electricity consumption. And if you buy into that program, we match your electricity consumption on the with renewables on the grid every month. So that's how that works for us. So I have a question that says, if you park outside with no garage, how much of a problem is it to charge your car during rain or snow or whatever? So it shouldn't be a problem at all. I've talked to different manufacturers of these units that come from places like Canada, and they show you how great charging was in Canada, how easy it was even outside in like sub-zero temperatures. So it's really not a problem. The only problem would be is if your car is being charged where the cord is easily, if you can easily trip from the cord. So just make sure, no one can trip and it's in a pretty secure spot. So it's not a problem at all. But if you want to do some, dig a little bit and do some research into the ones that are best for cold weather, feel free to do so. Okay, so this question is for the Prius Prime specifically. Does it come with both the 110 and 210 charge or only one? So I'm pretty sure that the Prius Prime doesn't come with fast charging capabilities, but you can charge it on level 1 and level 2, which means that's 110 volt and the 220 volt. You can have that installed in your home, the 220 volt charger, or not. It's really up to you and your preference. But again, I would encourage you to check out our charging page. And then another question, what are the warranties like on the battery/charging system typically? So I haven't heard enough about warranties on charging systems, so I would definitely encourage you to talk to whatever dealership you choose to use. But as far as batteries go, like I said earlier, it's usually about, I think it's an 8 or 10 year, 100,000 mile warranty. So you should be okay. And then where do you find ratings of electric vehicles? Well, it depends what kind of ratings you're looking for. So you can go to Consumer Reports to see the ratings of electric vehicles. And you can also go to IIHS to look at the different safety standards for the electric vehicles and where they compare. So I would use those two resources to start with. Okay, so someone asks, does parking outside in winter affect your EV battery? No, not really. The only thing that's advantageous to park like in a garage is that you can have your car plugged in while it's like preheating, and that causes less of a battery drain. But really, there's nothing wrong with parking your EV outside in the winter. I will mention and be very forthright about this, that the range does decrease in the winter because it's so cold. The same thing happens with internal combustion engine cars, but it is a little bit more in electric vehicles. But if you take a look at our winter driving page, there's a video of people driving EVs in Norway, and I feel like if they can do it in Norway, we can do it here. Another winter driving question, do winter conditions cause problems for all electric cars? No. Electric cars are heavy because they have the battery packs, and they also have a lower center of gravity because they have the battery packs, which makes it a little bit better for them as far as winter conditions go. If you're super concerned and want like an all-wheel drive kind of car, that might be something different. You'd have to find something like that. But there are some options for all-wheel drive out there. The second part is there is the extra power needed for defrosting and heating, which I did just cover. So it is better in that case to do that, to start that in a garage if you can, but if not, it's totally fine. But yeah, basically just know that your range will decrease in the winter. This question I can't completely answer, but I will say it out loud. It is it cheaper to buy a used electric car, or is it better to get a new one with all the incentives? I'd be happy to talk to you offline if you want to send me an email. It depends on what car you're looking at. I would need more information. But yeah, if you want to chat, feel free to email me after this. My email will I will also be sending you an email with the presentation, so you can follow up with me then if you like. The last question is, are there any discounts available for hybrids or only completely electric? So if you look on our website, there are discounts for all electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid vehicles, but only vehicles with plugs, not the hybrid electric vehicles. That's like a Prius without a plug kind of thing. Okay, so I think we are done for questions. Let me just get back to the presentation quickly. Okay. So what's next? If you want to know more about EVs or just have decided that you are very interested and want to keep talking about them, I would seriously suggest that you join the Drive Green community group that we have on Facebook. You'll get all your questions answered there and more. Plus, it's a really good supportive group for people who have EVs and are EV enthusiasts. You can also take the pledge that your next car will be electric if you're not quite ready to buy now, and that will just mean that we will keep you informed about we will keep you informed about electric vehicle news. Maybe we'll tell you about some really great discounts, but mostly it'll be EV news. Okay, I'm going to answer one more question, hold on, and then we'll be done. Okay, so the question is, does your organization offer support through the process of purchasing? It would be great to have someone to talk with to ensure that I'm doing this correctly and applying for the right incentives. So the process you saw before with going through the website, that is primarily how we show our support. So once you sign up, that makes you eligible for that discount. If you have questions leading up to that, you can feel free to call us or email me. And if you have questions about the different incentives, you can also call or email me. For the federal tax credit, you have to apply for that at your tax time. For the state rebate, you have to go to the More EV website for Massachusetts folks. But if you have questions just overall, feel free to reach out. But with that, I think we're a little over time. So if you do have any more questions, again, feel free to reach out. But thank you for your time and have a great night, everybody.